Greetings, residents. We're here today from your front porch out at Carnwath Farms at our administration building. Another beautiful day. Unfortunately, though, the weather continues to be hot, although now somewhat drier. And actually, that will be the principal focus of my discussion today with you. As you may have seen during our board meeting on last Monday night, aside from all the contentious stuff that happened, we discussed water conservation, and the board agreed with me that we need to implement voluntary water conservation at this time. And I'll talk about that further in a few minutes, so please bear with me. But stay tuned, to the discussion that we will have, concerning that. Two items before that. First, I want to let people know, remind you that, starting next week on actually, it's this week, August 27th. You can see this, and Jesse is zooming into it. From 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., our movie series begins out at Slaughterhouse Park, and this first one will be the PG movie, The Lorax. That's a fun one, to watch. And this is, as you may recall, where a young boy seeks to impress a pretty neighbor by getting in a tree, but in the process he encounters the Lorax. So, this hopefully will be wonderful weather from 8 to 10 p.m. out in Slaughterhouse Park. And we're going to be, running the series of movies throughout the month of September and into early October. We'll have other movies called Doolittle will be there, Enchanto, Space Jam: A New Legacy, and Frank and Weenie among the movies that we'll be having on a regular schedule that is posted in our recreation department site. We'll be posting this also on our Facebook site and our town website. So come on out. It's a great time, to watch a movie. We had some really good participation in our concerts in the park, despite some of the hot weather and a thunderstorm or two. So bring out the kids, bring out the whole family to see the Lorax on the 27th from 8 to 10 out at Slaughterhouse Park. Also, I want to let everybody know that our town guide, the Wappinger Town Guide for 2022, is now in. We just got the printings. This is the town guide that I started, and with great help from Joey Cavassini back in 2018, 2019. And so this is now available at Town Hall. And so if you want to get a copy, come on in, or if you'd like us to mail one to you, let me know. But this is full of actually a lot of new information, old format in many ways, but I think you'll find this informative for our many new residents. This is a very useful guide for you to have on by your phone, your coffee table, and we welcome any comments that you might have too. So come on in, pick up the town guide. We'll be also distributing it through some of the delis, other locations throughout the town, and I'm already starting to hand it out. So come on in and pick up your town guide, and we'll have plenty of guides available. Our first printing was 400. The board authorized 1,400. So this is now available through the end of the year, early next year, until supplies run out. So please, take a look. Learn more about your community. Turning to the water situation, as we discussed at the town board meeting and during my previous discussion here, we've been very fortunate to have planned out. I got the town board to authorize over $2 million for various expansion and enhancements of our well fields. We now have 3 that are fully operational, and perhaps some more work to dig another well or clean out a well out at our main Atlas well site. And also we are starting our discussions to get the finalization of our rights to access the New York City water through the pipeline that's that goes down to Chelsea, where the pump house is for the big new aqueduct that's going under the Hudson River. But as you've seen, the weather has been very dry. We were hoping and waited until this past storm that was supposed to come through, but fizzled. Monday and Tuesday we were supposed to get a lot of rain. Places south of us did receive a tremendous amount of rain, especially along the Jersey Shore. But we are still relatively bone dry. So as a result of that, and following the New York State DEC, they have now declared that our area is in a in a drought warning area. And during the Monday board meeting, Mike Tremper, who manages our water supply, he's the president of CAMO and does an amazing job. He reported to the board and that we're in Region 2 of the DEC, and they are currently have said that we're in a drought watch status. And a drought watch is declared when a drought is developing. So they believe that in light of the water, the rain forecast, that insufficient waterfall will be occurring, so that we all have to start really being more careful in the conservation of our water. Our average daily consumption of water has gone up. We're running 1.5 to 1.7 million gallons a day. Our well fields, when they're normally running, they can handle a couple million gallons a day. The risk is that as this dryness continues, as water dries up out of our Wappinger Creek and also Sprout Creek aquifers, then we want to make sure we get ahead of that so that we'll all continue to have more than adequate water supply for our internal home consumption. So as we look at our water supply, we also have another major concern, and this is related again to aquifers, and that's particularly our residents who are not out the town municipal water supply. About half of our town has private wells. Some of them are very deep, but most of the wells are shallow wells, what I call shallow wells, which are averaging 100 feet or less in depth. And those are the wells that dry up first and foremost, the quickest, and our Department of Health, the DEC, and also phone calls to Town Hall, to CAMO Pollution Control, which is our water company. And they are all reporting that there is a significant increase in failing wells. Now, we already did have a problem, especially in the areas such as along Route 9, along Route 376, where the water had been drying up. Also, chloride and other elements in the water that caused also the wells to fail. So we're very concerned about that. If there is any emergency need, let us know, and we can help put you into contact with the right people. For people along the 12-inch main that runs down Old Hopewell to New Hamburg over, we are in the process of accepting petitions to extend the water district there. If there is a real emergency, then the board can authorize a tenancy agreement. So let us know. Now, in our neighboring areas, such as in the village of Fishkill and the town of Fishkill, they have already started some restrictions on outside water usage, actual restrictions, because their water supply is more tenuous, precarious than ours currently is. What this means for some of our residents is that you also have to follow those restrictions, and this is because our residents in Fleetwood and also the Watch Hill section of the town get their water from Fishkill. So please, all of our residents there in Fleetwood and Watch Hill, you need to follow the guidelines, the requirements that Fishkill is imposing. What I'm going to say about water conservation, certainly you should be doing, But Fishkill, I believe, has more restrictions than we are currently imposing. I and our board do strongly recommend that you follow some more conservative practices when it comes to the water. We'll be posting this on our town website and also social media, so you don't have to take notes, just listen to what I'm saying, but I'm going to be giving you some of the pointers that we are looking for you to do in the coming weeks ahead until we get some, hopefully, some strong fall rains. Watching the weather report last night, it looks like that we as a country may go through one of the driest hurricane seasons ever. Knock on wood, that the hurricanes don't develop because of the damage they occur, but they bring often some necessary rain to the country. So some of the things that you can do indoors to save your water, I've talked about it before, but certainly turn off your water faucet while men are shaving, as you're washing up, brushing your teeth. I got in a bad habit as well, letting it run. And interesting fact that I've gotten from the state is the average person uses 10.9 gallons of water from the faucet a day. One person, the average, 10.9 gallons. So let's try to cut that back. Let's try to conserve. And similarly, if you have any leaking toilets, any leaking faucets, and leaking, you may hear a little drip or so forth. Any little drip will consume water. And an interesting fact again is that a faucet leaking 30 drops per minute wastes 54 gallons a month. 54 gallons a month, a lot of water. And there is a U.S. Government calculator that is available on the DEC website, which we'll be posting on our release. Don't try to make the tap water run hot. A lot of times people like to wash their face and their hands with hot water. Just use the cold weather, especially with water. Especially during the hot temperature. Put a plastic jug filled with water in the tank of a conventional toilet. So if you have a pint a pint jar or an iced tea jar or something, fill it up with water, put it in your tank. So that means the tank will not fill up fully, after each flushing. Throw your used facial tissues into the wastebasket instead of using the toilet as a wastebasket. That's also important for us from our sewer system. We get a lot of materials thrown into the toilets that should not be there. So each time people throw something in there, they have the tendency to flush it. Let's cut back on our flushings the best that we can. And when you're doing your laundry, your dishes, run a full load. Don't just do a half load and then come back, at the end of the day. Just let it build up, the best you can. Some folks are not able to do that, but let's try to conserve water that way as well. The average dishwasher uses 8 to 12 gallons, regardless of whether or not it's fully loaded. So if you're not fully loading it, we are wasting a lot of water. There are a number of water-saving plumbing fixtures that you can put in your shower, into your faucets. So those will also be important. I myself, in another area, the last one for indoor use that I'll talk about now, is that I'm trying to take a much shorter shower and don't let it really get up to the full heat level that I've tended to do. So take a shorter shower, also fill the bathtub maybe only halfway up to what you're used to do it. From an outdoor conservation point of view, one of the things, if you're cutting your lawns, which you probably shouldn't be because the burning out, raise your lawnmower up another inch or so, adjust it, tires so that the lawnmower goes up and doesn't cut off as much of the grass that causes the burn, which is tempting then to water your lawn. Those of you that have swimming pools, if you have a cover, then try to put it over to conserve the evaporation that goes from the water from the pool up into the sky. I've done more heavy mulching around my garden and plants in order to keep the moisture more in the ground so it's not all evaporating. I've also put in a drip, water irrigation, system around a lot of the shrubs. Although right now I've suspended, and this is another key point, if you have outdoor water irrigation, suspend the use of that, for the next week or so. Actually, many plants, especially grass, get stronger if its roots go deeper into the ground. The more you water, the more it doesn't grow its roots in the ground. It's similar to grapevines. Some of your best tasting grapes, and wine as a result of that comes from vineyards that don't water very much. As the grape struggles to survive, actually it enhances the flavor of the grape. Wash your cars. Not at all, perhaps, or certainly less frequently, and don't let that hose running and try, I have grandkids out in Pittsburgh, and, they like to have the car washed regularly so they can get it under the hose, but all that tends to go down the driveway into the street and evaporating. Now, as I said earlier, we do allow watering the lawns, but we're asking all of you to cut back dramatically or suspend it, as I just mentioned. And this, does help a lot, because especially as you water the lawn, much of that ultimately evaporates, and particularly if you're doing it during the day and not in the evening or early morning hours. So when you're using your automatic water system, just put it in override, or on my system, on the app, it's suspended. So it's in suspension mode through Labor Day weekend at this point in time. And so I really hope that you all can start, if you haven't already, some of these best practices, and this will help us conserve the water from our town fields, but also, much more importantly, the more water we use from our wells, it tends to draw it in from the surrounding aquifers, and our residents that have private water wells are suffering. So please, please keep that in mind, for your neighbors, for all of you that are on private wells, and conserve it for the use of your indoor, and then please follow those indoor practices that I just talked about. We'll be posting this, and you can also reach out to me. Also, we have a water department, Regina there, Leanne Frino, who's our tax collector, also responsible for water, and Mike Tremper and his team at Camo Pollution Control. So let's try to start right now a very strong water conservation program. We want to avoid any mandatory restrictions, which are not in the plans at this point in time, but I'll continue to report. We'll continue to post on that. And one last thing, well, two last things. One is my tie. I'm certainly rooting, as many of you are, for a World Series here in New York. And so let's root our favorite team, whichever side that you take, as they play the remainder of the season the next month, still in the lead. Let's hope that we can see a great World Series in our town. And last, but by no means least, yesterday was Ukrainian Independence Day. Let's continue to show our solidarity and support. We have to stop, the spread of worldwide fascism, before it can do more damage. That's what we're seeing in the Ukraine. So let's continue to show our solidarity for our Ukrainian residents here in the United States, friends and family. So until soon, please stay safe and remain well and conserve your water. Thank you and good day.